You have been lied to your entire life. Society tells you that walking alone means you have failed. They tell you that isolation is dangerous, that a man without a tribe is a man without a purpose. But what if the exact opposite is true? What if the crowd is not there to protect you, but to keep you perfectly average? The brutal reality is that the vast majority of men are addicted to the noise of other people. They need constant validation. They need to broadcast every move, every thought, every minor victory. But the top 1% of men operate entirely differently. They possess a psychological framework that the masses cannot comprehend. They choose to walk alone. They choose to grow in absolute silence. They understand a hidden truth. When you disconnect from the noise, you become immune to the manipulation of the world. In the next hour, we are going to tear down the modern myths of success and expose the raw, unfiltered mechanics of elite emotional control. You are here because you know you are meant for more than the chaotic, reactive life the modern world pushes on you. Watch closely. Do not skip a single word, because by the end of this, the way you view loneliness, power, and your own mind will change forever. Tell me in the comments right now, are you afraid of your own silence, or are you ready to use it as a weapon? Look around you. We live in an era of unprecedented emotional weakness. Men today are bombarded by a relentless stream of digital noise, outrage, and cheap dopamine. The modern man is practically trained to react instantly to everything. Someone disrespects him, he argues. He sets a goal, he posts about it immediately to get a hollow round of applause from strangers. He feels a moment of sadness, he scrambles for a distraction. This constant outward leakage of energy leaves him hollowed out. He has no internal fortress. He is completely dependent on external circumstances for his emotional stability. This is the exact opposite of personal power. The core problem is that modern society actively punishes quiet strength. It demands that you share your feelings, join the collective panic, and participate in the endless drama of the herd. But participating in this circus only drains your life force. Ancient philosophies like Stoicism understood this, but we do not need ancient quotes to see the truth today. The modern application of this ancient wisdom is very simple. Your attention is your most valuable currency, and the crowd is trying to steal it. You are standing at a crossroads. You can either continue bleeding your energy into the void of public opinion, or you can cut the cord. You can step into the silence, establish your own foundation, become a man who observes everything, reacts to nothing, and moves with terrifying, silent precision. The illusion of the crowd. Here is what separates a strong man from the rest. He recognizes that the crowd is an illusion of safety. Most men cling to social circles, online communities, and superficial friendships because they are terrified of standing on their own 2 feet. They believe there is safety in numbers, but in the modern world, the herd does not protect you. The herd infects you. It infects you with average ambitions, average fears, and average reactions. When you are constantly surrounded by others, your mindset naturally dilutes to match the lowest common denominator of the group. If the group is outraged, you become outraged. If the group complains, you complain. Walking alone is the absolute first step toward reclaiming your mind. It is not an act of arrogance. It is an act of intellectual survival. When you cut ties with the constant chatter, you stop absorbing the anxieties of other people. You create a psychological vacuum, and for the first time in your life, you are forced to hear your own thoughts. It is uncomfortable at first. You will feel exposed. But this discomfort is the exact friction required to spark true mental independence. The elite man embraces this isolation. He uses it to detoxify his mind from the infectious weakness of the masses. Silence as a forging fire. We are taught that speaking is action. It is not. Speaking is often the easiest way to avoid taking action. When a weak man conceives a grand plan, his immediate instinct is to tell everyone about it. His brain receives a premature spike of dopamine, tricking him into feeling like he has already achieved something. The strong man understands that silence is the forge where true reality is bent. He knows that his energy is a finite resource. If he spends it talking about his future, he will have nothing left to build it. Growing in silence is about hoarding your vital energy. It is about locking your intentions inside a vault where no one else can touch them, criticize them, or praise them prematurely. This requires immense self-discipline. It means swallowing your pride when you want to brag. It means smiling silently when someone underestimates you. Every time you choose not to reveal your hand, you build a layer of psychological armor. You become a mystery to those around you. And in the minds of others, mystery naturally translates into authority. By saying nothing, you command everything. This is the silent power that the top 1% of men wield daily. The anatomy of emotional control. To be an elite strategist in your own life, you must master the space between a trigger and your reaction. The weak man operates on a closed loop. Stimulus happens, reaction follows instantly. If he is insulted, he attacks. If he is rejected, he spirals. The man who walks alone and practices modern Stoic principles artificially widens this gap. He creates a massive buffer zone between what happens to him and how he responds. Here is what separates a strong man from the rest. He views his own emotions as data, not as directives. When anger rises, he does not become the anger. He observes it. He asks himself, does expressing this anger serve my ultimate goal? Usually the answer is no. Growing in silence means mastering this internal weather system. You stop letting external events dictate your internal climate. You become the eye of the storm. The chaos swirls around you. People lose their minds over trivial things, but you remain completely still. This level of emotional stability is terrifying to average people. They do not understand how you can remain so calm when everything is falling apart. That calmness is your ultimate weapon. It allows you to see solutions while others are blinded by their own panic. The dopamine trap of modern validation. We must address the most insidious enemy of the modern man, the addiction to external validation. From the moment we wake up, algorithms are designed to keep us hooked on the opinions of strangers. We measure our worth in likes, views, and comments. This is a slave mindset. It means you have handed the keys to your self-esteem over to people who do not even care if you live or die. The path of the Stoic requires brutally severing this dependency. When you walk alone, you stop performing for an audience. You stop dressing, speaking, and acting to impress people you secretly despise. You shift from an external locus of control to an internal locus of control. You become your own judge. You set a standard for yourself that is infinitely higher than anything society would demand of you. If you meet that standard, you respect yourself. If you fail, You correct yourself. You need absolutely no applause. This shift is monumental. Once you no longer need the approval of the crowd can no longer control you. You become completely ungovernable. You walk through life with a quiet, devastating confidence that cannot be shaken by criticism, because it was never built on praise. Navigating betrayal and abandonment. The deeper you go into your own development, the more people you will lose. This is a painful truth, but it is a necessary one. Friends will fall away. Partners may leave. Colleagues will misunderstand you. The weak man views abandonment as a tragedy. He begs people to stay. He compromises his core principles just to keep his social circle intact. The man walking the path of elite resilience sees things differently. He understands that most relationships are built on shared habits. If your shared habits are complaining, wasting time, and hiding from potential, then the moment you stop doing those things, the relationship must die. Let them go. Do not argue. Do not try to explain your new path to people who are committed to misunderstanding you. Here is what separates a strong man from the rest. He lets the dead wood fall away without a sound. He views betrayal not as an emotional wound, but as an informational update. The person showed their true character, the data has been processed, and the system is updated. By allowing people to leave in silence, you make room for the immense power of solitude. You clear the battlefield. Building mental calluses through discomfort. Comfort is the silent killer of masculine energy. The modern world is engineered to make your life as frictionless as possible. You can order food without speaking, entertain yourself without moving, and live entirely within a temperature-controlled bubble. This physical softness breeds profound mental weakness. To grow in silence, you must actively hunt for discomfort. You must introduce voluntary hardship into your daily routine. This is the essence of modern Stoicism. It is not about enduring tragedy, it is about practicing for it. You take the cold shower. You lift the heavy weight. You force yourself to read the difficult book instead of watching the easy video. Why? Because you are building mental calluses. Every time you choose the harder path, you send a signal to your own brain. You prove to yourself that your will is stronger than your base desires. This is how unshakable confidence is manufactured. It is not bought, and it is not wished for. It is forged in the silent, unglamorous moments when no one is watching, and you decide to push through the pain anyway. When a real crisis inevitably hits, the comfortable man shatters. You, having practiced discomfort daily, merely adapt. The power of the unsaid word. Think about the most powerful men in any room. They are rarely the loudest. The loudest man is usually the most insecure. He is desperate to prove his worth by filling the air with words. The elite man understands the economy of language. Every word you speak dilutes the value of the next. When you speak constantly, people stop listening. When you speak rarely, people lean in. They hang on your every syllable because they know you do not waste your breath. Mastering the unsaid word is a fundamental tool for psychological dominance. When someone insults you, the natural reaction is to fire back. But imagine the absolute power of holding eye contact, saying absolutely nothing, and letting their insult hang in the dead air. Your silence becomes a mirror, reflecting their insecurity right back at them. They will scramble to fill the void, often apologizing or backpedaling. You did not have to lift a finger. You defeated them with nothing. This takes immense discipline. You must fight the ego's urge to prove itself right. Let people be wrong about you. Let them assume what they want. your results will eventually speak with a volume that words could never match. Starving the ego, feeding the mind. The ego is a loud, needy child that lives inside your head. It constantly demands respect, attention, and immediate gratification. The problem with the ego is that it blinds you to reality. If you are entirely focused on protecting your self-image, you cannot see your own flaws. You cannot learn. You cannot adapt. Walking alone requires you to starve this ego. When you are in isolation, there is no one around to impress. The mask comes off. You are forced to look at yourself with cold, objective rationality. You see your laziness. You see your excuses. You see the gaps in your knowledge. The weak man runs from this mirror. He turns the music up louder to drown out the voice of his own inadequacy. Here is what separates a strong man from the rest. He stares directly into his own darkness. He feeds his mind while starving his ego. He consumes knowledge, dissects his failures, and takes brutal ownership of his shortcomings. He realizes that humility is not weakness. True humility is the ultimate strategic advantage. It means you are willing to look like a fool today so that you can become a master tomorrow. The ego says, "I know enough." The silent warrior says, "I know nothing, but I will learn everything." Eradicating the need to be understood. One of the heaviest chains that holds a man back is the desperate need to be understood by others. When you decide to elevate your life, your actions will stop making sense to average people. When you wake up at dawn to work while they sleep, they will call you obsessed. When you refuse to drink poison on the weekends, they will call you boring. When you invest your money instead of buying flashy liabilities, they will call you cheap. The natural instinct is to explain yourself. You want to sit them down and make them see your vision. Stop. Eradicate this need immediately. Explaining yourself is a subtle form of begging for permission. It implies that your path is only valid if they agree with it. Elite men do not ask for permission, and they do not explain their coordinates to people who are not flying the plane. Accept that you will be misunderstood. Embrace the title of the outcast. The friction of being misunderstood is the exact energy you need to propel yourself forward. Let them construct false narratives about you. Their opinions are completely irrelevant to the physics of your success. Your silent dedication is the only argument you will ever need. Weaponized focus. In a world of infinite distractions, focus is the ultimate superpower. It is the new IQ. You can be highly intelligent, but if your attention is fractured across 100 different apps, dramas, and trivial problems, a man of average intelligence with laser focus will destroy you in the marketplace. Walking alone naturally enhances your focus. When you strip away the social obligations and the drama, you reclaim hours of lost time. But time is not enough. You must weaponize your focus. This means directing all your cognitive energy toward a singular, high-impact objective. When you close the door and sit in silence, you must ruthlessly eliminate anything that does not serve your mission. No phone, no background noise, just raw, unbroken concentration. This state of deep work is where massive leaps in progress occur. It is highly uncomfortable at first because your brain is addicted to rapid context switching. You will feel the urge to check your phone every 3 minutes. You must sit through the withdrawal. You must force your mind to obey your will. Here is what separates a strong man from the rest. He treats his attention like a loaded weapon. and he never points it at anything he does not intend to conquer. The barrier against modern manipulation. You are living in a psychological war zone. Every news headline, every advertisement, every algorithm is specifically engineered to hack your nervous system. They want you angry, fearful, and endlessly consuming. A man who lacks an internal philosophical structure is easily hijacked. He becomes a puppet, dancing to the strings of media manipulation. The practice of modern Stoicism provides an impenetrable shield against this. By spending time alone and in silence, you calibrate your own internal compass. You begin to recognize when an external force is trying to implant an emotion into your mind. When the media demands outrage, you offer indifference. When society demands panic, you respond with cold calculation. You build a firewall between your perception and your reaction. This is true freedom. You are no longer a reactionary animal driven by the whims of the culture. You are a sovereign entity. You decide what enters your mind and what gets discarded. When you stop giving the architects of chaos your emotional energy, their power over you evaporates. You become a ghost in their machine. They cannot sell you fear if you have already conquered the fear of standing entirely alone. Cultivating a dangerous level of patience. We live in an era of microwaves and next-day delivery. The modern man expects instantaneous results. If he works out for a week and sees no muscle, he quits. If he starts a business and it is not profitable in a month, he pivots. This hyper-impatience guarantees long-term failure. The path to elite success requires cultivating a level of patience that borders on the dangerous. It is the patience of a sniper. It is the ability to lay quietly in the dirt for days, waiting for the perfect moment to strike. Growing in silence means accepting that monumental achievements take years, not weeks. It requires you to fall in love with the unglamorous, repetitive daily grind. You must find joy in the silence of the process, completely divorced from the outcome. Here is what separates a strong man from the rest. He stretches his time horizon. While the masses are fighting over scraps today, he is quietly building an empire for a decade from now. This extreme patience makes you immune to short-term setbacks. When you fail on a Tuesday, it means nothing, because your plan spans a 10-year timeline. Time becomes your greatest ally, while it remains the enemy of the impatient. The silent exit. One of the most critical skills you must master is the art of the silent exit. Throughout your life, you will encounter disrespect, toxic environments, and bad deals. The average man feels the need to fight every battle. He wants to have the last word. He wants to dramatically announce his departure to prove a point. This is emotional immaturity. The elite man handles disrespect with terrifying efficiency. He does not yell. He does not throw threats. He simply assesses the situation, realizes the environment no longer serves him, and he disappears. He removes his energy, his resources, and his presence without a single word of warning. The silent exit is the most devastating response to disrespect. It deprives the other party of the conflict they crave. It leaves them arguing with a ghost. By walking away in silence, you preserve your dignity and your time. You recognize that your presence is a privilege. When someone violates the terms of that privilege, the access is revoked instantly and permanently. You do not explain the terms of their failure. You just close the door. This protects your peace and conserves your energy for the battles that actually matter. Forging an unbreakable internal narrative. The voice inside your head dictates the trajectory of your life. For most men, That internal narrative is a relentless stream of self-doubt, victimhood, and excuses. They have allowed the world to write their story. When you step into isolation and embrace the silence, you take control of the pen. You realize that you are the author of your own reality. You must actively audit and rewrite the way you speak to yourself. When you face an obstacle, you do not say, "Why is this happening to me?" You say, "This is happening to test my resolve, and I will crush it." You eliminate words like try, hope, and wish from your internal vocabulary. You replace them with will, must, and done. This is not cheap positive thinking. This is psychological programming. By repeatedly reinforcing an identity of strength, resilience, and absolute competence, you physically rewire your neural pathways. Here is what separates a strong man from the rest. He refuses to tolerate a weak internal monologue. He becomes his own most demanding coach and his own most loyal ally. When the entire world doubts you, your internal narrative must remain an unbreachable fortress. The charisma of the void. There is a strange paradox that occurs when you detach from the need for attention. People become magnetically drawn to you. When you are quiet, focused, and unbothered by the chaos around you, you create what psychologists call the charisma of the void. People are naturally curious about things they cannot easily understand. The loud, boastful man reveals all his cards immediately. There is no mystery, and therefore no lasting interest. But the man who sits back, observes, and speaks only when necessary becomes an enigma. People will project their own insecurities and desires onto your silence. They will wonder what you are thinking. They will respect your boundaries because they do not know exactly where they end. This is a highly strategic advantage in both business and personal dynamics. By offering less, you force others to work harder to engage with you. You invert the power dynamic. Instead of chasing their approval, you sit firmly in your own center of gravity and let them orbit around you. The silence is not empty. It is full of potential energy that others can feel. This is how leaders are born, in the quiet moments. Navigating the valley of loneliness. We must be completely honest about the reality of this path. It is not always glorious. There will be nights when the silence becomes deafening. You will look at your peers out having fun, living easy, consequence-free lives, and a deep, visceral wave of loneliness will hit you. You will question whether the sacrifice is worth it. You will wonder if you have made a massive mistake by alienating yourself from the herd. This is the ultimate test. This is the valley of loneliness. The weak man breaks here. He cannot handle the psychological pressure, so he runs back to the comfort of the crowd, abandoning his progress. The elite man expects this valley. He knows that this intense feeling of isolation is simply the weakness leaving his mind. He sits with the loneliness. He does not medicate it with alcohol, cheap entertainment, or meaningless interactions. He lets the fire burn. Here is what separates a strong man from the rest. He realizes that loneliness is the price of admission to the top 1%. You must endure the darkness of the cocoon if you want the power of the transformation. You do not run from the pain, you let it forge you. The death of the old self. To become the man you are destined to be, the man you are right now must die. There is no compromise. You cannot drag your old habits, your old fears, and your old need for validation into your new life. The silence is the graveyard of your former self. As you spend more time alone, you will naturally start shedding the behaviors that no longer fit. You will stop caring about sports drama. You will stop gossiping. You will lose your taste for junk food and junk information. This process is like a snake shedding its skin. It is entirely natural, but it requires friction. You are dismantling your old identity piece by piece. Do not mourn the loss of who you used to be. That version of you was built by society to be a compliant worker and a mindless consumer. The new version of you is being built by your own deliberate design. Allow the old self to wither away in the silence. The more you let go of your attachment to your past, the more space you create for your future dominance. You are becoming a blank slate, ready to be programmed with elite capabilities. Embracing the role of the observer. When you step out of the arena of constant noise, you automatically take on a new role. The observer. The observer sees everything, but is emotionally attached to nothing. While the crowd is fighting over politics, social media trends, and trivial disputes, you stand on the balcony. You watch the patterns of human behavior play out. You see the manipulation tactics used by the media. You see the insecurities driving the actions of your enemies. Because you are silent, no one suspects that you are analysing them. This gives you a massive tactical advantage. You know their weaknesses, but they know nothing about yours. The observer does not waste energy trying to correct the foolishness of others. He uses that knowledge to navigate the board. Here is what separates a strong man from the rest. He plays the game of life like a grandmaster playing chess. He is never reactionary. He moves pieces silently, anticipating the opponent's moves 5 steps in advance. The silence affords you the clarity to see the entire board, while the noisy men are blind, focused only on the piece directly in front of them. The transformation into the sanctuary. Eventually, a profound shift happens. The isolation that once felt terrifying transforms into your absolute sanctuary. You no longer endure solitude. You crave it. You realize that your time alone is the most high-value, productive, and peaceful part of your existence. It is the place where you recharge, strategize, and build. When you reach this stage, you have achieved a level of emotional independence that 99% of men will never experience. You become truly dangerous to the status quo. Because you do not need people. You cannot be blackmailed with the threat of abandonment. Because you do not need validation, you cannot be controlled by praise. You are self-sustaining. The world can crash around you, economies can fall, people can betray you, but your internal sanctuary remains perfectly intact. You have built a fortress that cannot be breached from the outside. You walk into any room with a calm, lethal confidence, knowing that no matter what happens, you are entirely capable of handling it on your own. You have mastered the silence, and in doing so, you have mastered yourself. The final realization of true independence. We arrive at the ultimate truth of the silent path. You were born alone, and you will die alone. Everything in between is a temporary arrangement. The Stoics meditated on death not to be morbid, but to clarify the urgency of living correctly right now. If your entire life is built on the opinions of others, you will arrive at the end with nothing of your own. True independence is the realization that you are the sole architect of your legacy. Walking alone is not about hating society. It is about loving your own potential enough to protect it from the mediocrity of the masses. You have been given a brief, fleeting window of time on this earth. Do not waste it performing for ghosts. Strip away the noise. Embrace the cold, hard reality of self-reliance. Build your mind, build your body, build your empire. And do it all without asking for a single round of applause. Let the results speak so loudly that your silence is deafening. Here is what separates a strong man from the rest. He does not wait for a savior, he does not ask for permission, and he does not fear the dark. He walks forward alone, he becomes undeniable, and he grows in absolute, unbreakable silence. You have reached the end. If you are still listening, you have just proved that your attention span is greater than the vast majority of the modern population. You are already separating yourself from the herd. The path we have laid out today is not for the faint of heart. It requires brutal honesty, relentless discipline, and the courage to face your own reflection without flinching. But the reward is absolute freedom. You now understand why the top 1% of men choose the silent path. They know that power is generated in isolation, refined by Stoic principles, and deployed with precision. It is time for you to stop talking about your potential and start building it in the dark. Let them think what they want. Let them assume you are lost. When you finally emerge, your results will be undeniable, and they will never see you coming. If this message resonated with your core, if you are ready to embrace the silence and take absolute control of your mind, subscribe to the channel. We are building an elite brotherhood of men who refuse to be average. Before you leave, I have one question for you, and I want your answer in the comments right now. What is the one distraction you are going to silently eliminate from your life today? Write it down. Make it real. Then step back into the silence and get to work.